the Sex Pistols, was that Sid Vicious and
Yeah, Johnny Rotten. Yeah.
Johnny Rotten? That's how Sid Vicious got his name. I
Mm.
gave him the name.
Oh, did you really?
Sid Udi is his real name is Sid Udi, and we're looking for a name. We were in another company at the time. We was in the Continental, which is like Southern
Yeah, the
Alabama and
Alabama. Yeah.
yeah. And I said, why don't we call him that Sid Vicious? Because his real name is Sid Vicious. And they said, we're going to call you Sid Vicious. Oh, he loved it. And he made the name work for him.
Did Lord Humongous not do it for you then as a name?
Well, it's a copy. And he was Lord Humongous for a while, and they had another guy. And they was all kind of knockoffs all over the place. But no, he never did it for me because, I mean, what is the heat when a guy can just go in the ring and just beat the crap out of you? I mean, there's no heat. I mean, he just beats you up. He didn't cheat. He didn't do anything that the people that was illegal. He just actually beat you up. So actually, the heat was on the guy he was wrestling for being dumb enough to get in the ring with him to get the crap beat out of him. That's the way I always looked at it. But see, a heel is a different type of individual because great heels are always victims of something. Every time something happens to him, people are against him. People don't want to see him succeed. They're jealous of him, this, that, and the other. Nothing is ever his fault. And you've known people like this in real life. And they have heat. They're actually real heels, but don't know it. But that's what a real good heel, if he knows psychology and he knows how to actually work people, he's got it made. And a heel doesn't have to go out there and shout and scream and holler. He can actually go out there and cry, and he'd get his feelings hurt because the people didn't like him. That's the great biggest heat getter ever. So, and guys who have figured that out had a lot of success in the heelness of wrestling.
Since you brought up Sid, I'll always ask this question because I've asked this a couple of times. But even when you were working with him with, I don't know if it was USWA or Memphis, I should have checked. No, sorry, in Alabama as well. Was he skipping dates, shots to play softball back then as well?
No, I don't think so. He probably skipped dates in Memphis, but I don't really remember that, to tell you the truth. I think if he was going to play softball, and I'm not saying he didn't skip dates, according to where the date was, he wouldn't skip a Memphis and he wouldn't skip a major town. He may have skipped some of the smaller spot show towns by saying he was sick, but he's really playing softball. But that's the thing that's kind of stuck with him. But I don't think he, to my knowledge, he never did it.
What was Sid like personally then? Because I've heard the gamut of great guy to, of all people, Mike Chioda, the referee, the WWE referee, said he was a bit of a bully. So, like, as personally, what was he like? Was he just high strung, like he was on TV, or how did you find him?
Well, you had to watch I like Sid. I got along with him well. But Sid, if somebody was going to try to upstage him, that would make him mad. And sometimes he would say something, and he was, I guess the word is touchy. You ever heard that word, touchy?
Oh, yeah,
I guess.
Of course, yeah.
Because, and I've seen him like that. But by and large, he was okay.
Yeah. Would you have, let's say you're booking Sid's career, would you have ever made him the bad guy? Or would he have always been your, statuesque, muscly, tall, good guy and champion that everybody would challenge?
Great heel. Because he looks like a heel. His face looks like a heel. Sid's got a face that only a mother could love. Because he looks like he could kick your ass. And if you take him in and you give him just a few thoughts that he can get beat, you put a lot of heat on that guy. Because he's 6'8" or 6'9", and he's not overly muscled and he's tall, but he looks great. He's always looked great. So, but you see, making a guy a heel or a baby face only depends on who their opponents are going to be. Now, like, this is the way the territories used to operate. Let me push my deal up here. So, like, territories used to operate on the resident babyface theory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Lawler had, Memphis had Lawler.
The incumbent.
Right. Florida always had Dusty. New York, old New York, the old WWF always had Bruno. The Fuller's companies always had Ron Fuller, but it was the resident babyface, like Georgia would have Mr. Wrestling, so to speak. So all you had to do, see, the actual formula wasn't hard to understand. You ran the heels through, and say a heel started in Memphis, they would start a lot of new heels. Your top heels, they'd start them like in January. And they could run all the way through the end of summer, what, 9 months? But then, unless you want to play rehash and go back through it with this guy, you bring new heels in. Then Lawler would have a new opponent. And when Lawler was like the knight on the shining white horse, invading, the heel would be like the big fire-breathing dragon who invaded the kingdom. And of course, you know he was going to the king, and the king would be the only one who could slay this dragon. So after he beat me, and he beat Dundee, and he beat somebody else, and some more baby faces, finally now the king's going to stop him. And they have this big battle over a period of 6 weeks or whatever it is. And then the king would always vanquish the dragon, and things were back like they were supposed to be till the next fire-breathing dragon came in. That's what Jimmy Hart's job was. He would bring the fire-breathing heels in, and he would manage all of them to get to Lawler. A great formula, and it worked for 5 years, like a charm. And Bruno's the same way, and Dusty the same way. Von Erickson, Texas, the same way. So it was a formula that if you followed the formula, you were going to be successful. That's why I'm saying they all came in with different gimmicks too. Like the Ugandan giant. They didn't find him in Africa. They found him down in Mississippi someplace. James Harris, which was a great guy. So this was a Jerry Jarrett invention. We said, hey, he's a big guy, and he actually come to the dressing room when I met Memphis, and I knew him. I said, hey, James, what are you doing? Oh, yeah, man. I said, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to try to see if I can do something with you guys. I thought it'd be great, because I liked him. So, and they said, well, let us think about it. They talked to him that Monday night, and they came back to Nashville where they live. And they got to thinking about this. See, they couldn't bring him in just as a regular, or they could, but you want to bring somebody in that's going to get the most attention and possibly draw the most money. So they come up with the Ugandan giant, of course, from Uganda. And so they came up with some name. He was found by this doctor, and he brought him in and did nothing but money with him. And then, of course, he went to the Mid-South after that. And then he ended up with in WWF with Vince. Because Vince loved those gimmicks like that because they were easy to work with. I mean, because when he comes out of the dressing room, what do you think about this guy? If you've never seen him before, he's wrestling just a regular looking, guy that looks good. Well, who are you going to cheer for? Are you going to cheer for this monster, this big giant? Or are you going to cheer for the underdog? Well, of course you're going to cheer for the underdog because that's human nature. And then the giant would go in there and just beat the crap out of him.
I'm going to give you a fact, actually, and then I'm going to move on to the next thing. But Hulk Hogan versus Kamala was the main event of the very first time the WWF was ever shown in this country, ever, in 1986. And, who else better to sort of get over what the WWF was all about in outlandish and huge characters